r/AskReddit. Ex-boyfriends/girlfriends who have walked in on their partner cheating. What was your reaction? Finally a question that I can unload. I had come home from working out of town, and when I pulled up to the driveway there was an unfamiliar car parked in what would normally be where I parked. I didn't think much of it and thought it might be my ex-wife's sister. So I parked right behind it. I walked in through the door, checked the mail, and yelled that I was home. The bedroom door slammed shut, and I still didn't think too much about it as it was a few weeks before Christmas and thought they were wrapping presents. After a few minutes I finally walked back to the bedroom and knocked on the door. My ex-wife yelled back and said, "Just a minute." After a few moments I knocked and again was greeted with "just a minute," but this time there was a tone in her voice that made me believe something was up. I quickly reached up and grabbed the emergency key and unlocked the door. There was my ex-wife half naked and the French doors leading to outside were wide open. I immediately started to interrogate her, asking her who is he, what's his name. She wouldn't give it up. I continued on asking and probing over and over. She finally gave me his first name and refused to give me his last name. So I immediately got on the phone with a close work friend of hers and asked her friend if she knew his last name and what street did he live on. After obtaining this information I looked up his information and got his home phone number. I called the number and told his wife, now ex-wife, what just happened. She said it couldn't be true. I told her that if she wanted the license plate number from his car, I would give it to her. At that time she finally realized that what I was saying was true, and she asked for my phone number and said she would call me in the next day or two. After I hung up the call, I gathered up his belongings, shoes, and shirt, put them on top of his car, moved my car I had him blocked in, and yelled out into the darkness of night and told him by name to get the F***ck out of here. About 10 minutes later I heard his car start up and he left. I have a good one. I hope the assholes see this. He had just moved 1300 miles to be with me in my hometown after a rough start and my large move back home. I was living with a mutual friend who took the plunge with me to go to grad school. It was 2 weeks to the day of his move. He was celebrating getting his first big boy job out of college, while I was working hard to make a name for myself at the company I worked for. We were supposed to have date night, but the roommate invited himself before I got home from work and the boyfriend didn't object. I was tired. It was Friday after another grueling week, since I had just been promoted. I told them to go and have boys night. I wasn't happy, he wasn't happy, and the roommate was oblivious to the entire situation. For the 2 weeks my boyfriend was there he spent day and night with the roommate drinking and talking about whatever and playing video games while I worked. I'd get home and the boyfriend would be with the roommate and barely acknowledge my presence. They go out and I send the boyfriend a text letting him know what was up because while at home the roommate wouldn't leave our side so we could discuss. Boyfriend gets pissed I didn't say anything before he left. He proceeds to get hammered along with the roommate. Story goes that on the walk home they decided they wanted to do the MDMA boyfriend brought from home. I didn't know he had it. Roommate was seeing a stripper he met one night during drunken escapes. She gets invited. I'm asleep in bed with our beautiful dog and have no idea this is happening. I wake up at about 2 AM to loud dubstep in my living room. Instantly I'm hit with sharp pains because I know my boyfriend, so I know what he's up to. I walk to the living room and he's under his special blanket with the stripper. I grab my cigarettes and proceed to bolt. Roommate stops me and asks me to just smoke with him on the patio. I do. I tell him I know they're high and I know what is going on. He plays dumb. We finish and I return to my room and toss and turn. Hours later the boyfriend tried to join. I ask him calmly why he thinks that is appropriate for him to be getting into my bed after that display. He plays dumb. Now I let them play dumb because I want to play dumb. 2 weeks is all it took for him to shatter my heart after 5 months long distance and 2 years of struggle before that. He promised with a change of scenery and not knowing anyone that he'd be loyal and dedicated. I was dumb to believe he would change the need for female attention just for the chance to be with me. A month goes by and I get a text from the stripper who is in the roommate's room while the roommate is at the bar with friends. Everyone has treated me like an outsider for the month. She wants to talk. She comes in and tells all. Boyfriend walks in during and very quickly leaves. When she's through, I decided I needed to talk to him to compare stories. They match. He swears it was an inebriated mistake. Was sleeping with my friend at the beginning of our relationship for 3 months a mistake too? I tried for a year after. I went off the deep end. Now he's living in my hometown in our apartment with his new girlfriend who moved in the day I moved out. And the roommate has a kid with the stripper. I'm back in the town we started in and trying to piece my life together. Fuck you, Tim Pat. You just wanted Portland, not me. Second and last guy I dated seriously was a pet doctor. He was young and establishing his practice, had practically no staff except for his vet tech who was a married woman. I'm an animal freak and good with people, computers, so I helped him out for an hour or two sometimes around my other job. He was great vet and I wanted him to make it. I cared about him, thought there might be something real happening there. He said so. Told me he loved me in fact. I come in one morning and I hear giggles. He's on the examining table with the vet tech and they are playing human doctor. He saw me, went all oh and tried to button up, but it was over. I turned around, walked out and never talked to him again. Didn't answer his calls, his notes on my door, nothing. Cut him dead. He was frantic. He knew what he had lost, and he wasn't happy about it. He sent me gifts, tried everything to get me to talk to him. Nope. It was fortunate that we had not actually slept together at that point. We'd been talking a lot about it, and I'd just gotten on birth control again. I wanted him to get tested for STDs before we went there. He'd had a lot more partners than he'd agreed, had a nap to do that week actually. We probably would have gone to bed very soon, but I'm ever so glad now that we hadn't. He had told me though that we were exclusive in anticipation of what was likely to be us involved that way soon. I had no reason to expect him to be more interested in being with me soon than with boning his much married VT. Dodged a bullet, not sorry either. I'm not too flexible on the infidelity thing. Once a man tells me I'm his only GF and that he loves me, I expect the courtesy of him keeping his pants zipped if he wants to be with me. I don't cheat, ever. The guy could be fucking Sebastian Stan, current mega crush, and I would still dump his ass as soon as possible for doing that to me, even if doing so broke my heart. A guy wants to bone others, okay, I get it. Some people are not naturally monogamous. He needs to be honest and not lead me on. You leave before you fuck someone else. That's the polite thing to do. You don't risk your partner's health or cause them undue heartache. That's just lazy and inconsiderate. Some people they just don't get that they can't have both. I really don't like people like that who lie and lead on genuinely monogamous people. It's one thing to not be and admit that, give someone like me a choice. It's another to hide, lie and cheat knowing the other person really cares and will be devastated when they find out you are cheating. This was back in college. I was with him until our senior year. When we first started dating, he told me he was gay, but he used to date girls back in high school. Okay, I didn't think much of it. We did a lot of crazy and stupid shit together, and I was super attracted to him. Anyway, senior year comes by and our schedules are becoming more hectic, and we didn't see each other as much. He had a major group project for one of his finance classes, and worked with 3 other people. He spent a lot of time with one of the girls on this project to the point where every time I saw him, she was there. I brought the subject up, and he assured me it was nothing. I would try to make time to see him, even though I was swamped between classes and work. When I did ask him to hang out, he would tell me he was busy with work for his class. I felt us growing distant, and it made me really uneasy. This girl was pretty too with a strong personality. So yes, I did feel a little insecure. Anyway, fast forward a bit. He invites me to a party his fraternity was throwing. I had work that day, so I told him I couldn't make it. However, I felt bad we didn't get to spend much time together, so I asked my boss if I could leave earlier because I have a lot of schoolwork to catch up on. He had someone cover my shift and let me go early. I head to the party to try and surprise him. I get there and I search around for a bit, but I couldn't find him. So I give him a call, straight to voicemail. Great. I ask his brothers if they've seen him. They said he left a little while ago and he is probably back in his room. So I make my way over there, and as I'm approaching, I see the door is slightly closed. I take a peek into the crack and there he was, balls deep in that chick from his class. Half of their clothes sprawled on the floor. I didn't even know how to react, to be honest. I felt like my stomach just dropped and my heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to just burst in there with a bat, but that wouldn't have accomplished anything. I pushed the door open a little and the squeaking got their attention. And then I walked away. When we talked the next day, he gave me the sorry speech. But he also said that he was really attracted to her, but he still loves me. It hurt just to be around him. I ended things with him. The whole experience really did a number on me. I haven't been in another relationship since then. I find it hard to trust guys now. A friend of mine who is an acquaintance of his told me they got married last year and are expecting a baby. I can't even say I hate them, because at the end it worked out for them. Alright, story time. This was right when Pokemon Go was huge, like 2 weeks after release. I was gonna walk to Target to pick up some stuff for our date night: face masks, snacks, lube, some soda, movie or video game from Redbox. She gave me her phone with the Go app open, and so I could work towards hatching some of her 10k eggs. I was glancing at the phone to make sure the app was still open when she gets 2 Skype messages. One was a notification that she had received a picture, and the other was a message that said, "Lol, sorry I couldn't send this last night, I was too spent. Enjoy." That was literally the most suspicious message you can see on your so's phone, aside from "Yo, you the girl that wants to offer boyfriend? Saw you on Craigslist." So I investigated. Bam. Big old dick on the screen. I went back through their convo, and over the past 2 months they had been sexting every few days and calling once, maybe twice a week. From the messages sent right after the calls ended, I could imagine the content of the calls. Anyway, I buy the shit and head back to her place. I don't give any indication that something was wrong because I need time to prepare. I was visiting from out of state and had no car, so I needed an escape plan. I didn't want to spend the next 4 nights sleeping in the same house as that woman. So I texted a buddy of mine who lived an hour away from her house, and he agreed to come pick me up and text me when he was 10 minutes out. I packed my stuff as subtly as I could, and when I got the text, I went into her office, where she was doing some work, and explained the situation very calmly. I told her that I had seen the messages that she exchanged with the guy, and that from the messages she was sending, that it was a lot more than just sex. She had a romantic interest in this dude, at least a little one. I tell her that my friend was on his way to get me, and I was going to stay at his place for the evening, maybe the next few nights. I told her to do some very serious thinking about whether or not she wanted to be in a relationship with me, or if she wanted him. I also said that I was gonna be thinking as well, and I didn't know if I was gonna want to be with her anymore. I didn't raise my voice throughout this whole process. I just explained what I had seen and what I was doing in a calm, measured, utterly emotionless form. Then I grabbed my shit, walked outside, got in my friend's car, and left. 10 minutes later she was calling me, screaming and begging me to come back and talk and take her back. I told her that wasn't gonna happen and that we both needed to think. Blah blah, normal shit happened from there. I ended up getting back with her for another 4 months. No more cheating ensued. Our relationship ended because of distance. Now there's no way in hell I could ever do long distance again, just because of the paranoia I have. Didn't walk in pussy. This was back in high school. I had been dating this guy for about 2 years. Things were rocky, but I was so happy that, after telling him about my past, he was willing to stay with me. He asked me to marry him in the cafeteria during our shared lunch break in front of everyone. We both cried when I said yes. After that we dated almost another 2 years and things had gotten better. I was in my senior year and he was a junior, so talks of college crept up. I decided to go to a university close by because I didn't have a car, and we agreed that some weekends we would swap seeing each other. I would go home or he would come to the university to see me. One day I had asked to borrow his PSP since I was starting to get into racing games and I could give it back later that evening. He agreed and handed it over. We got on our separate buses and went home. As in pulling out the PSP from its case, I see a piece of paper fall and pick it up. I peer into the fabric case and notice another, so I turn it inside out. By the time I had pieced it all together I was fuming. I taped it up, folded it, put it in my coat pocket, went and seen him later, and didn't give away that I knew what was up. Next day at school I confront the girl I knew the letter came from. It was a back and forth between the two of them on what I assume was a bus ride home. I hear her yell across the courtyard, "I thought I told you to throw this away, EXS name here." The thing was, she's his second cousin, and in it was a back and forth of how she didn't understand how she couldn't keep a BF, or why no one wanted to date her, while he's telling her how he would treat her like the princess she is. She ran when she found out I knew. I had a rep of being the underdog fighter. We broke up. I went to college, but he kept trying to call. Eventually the guy I was with answered and told him to leave me alone, that I was with someone better. Found out he cheated on me through social media though. I have the worst taste in men sometimes, especially when I'm feeling alone. Too bad that's not the worst I've been through with relationships. Thanks for letting me vent though. Edit, I didn't get upset and yell and scream when I found out both my exes cheated. I was more sad than any other emotion. To feel like you're not even worth their time or have any value, that people feel the need to cheat. That really fucks with you, and it fucked me up so badly that I stayed in an abusive as fuck relationship for 4 years because I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy and that something was so wrong with me that I should feel lucky that someone would say they loved me. Well, I have never told this story to anyone, not even Reddit. I kinda hope it gets buried because of the embarrassment and because I don't want the involved parties knowing my Reddit name, but here goes. This happened about 5 years ago. She was my first real GF. First love for sure. Honestly, her face is still burned into my memory. She and I had been dating for about 6 years, and there had been a couple incidents. About a year in, I caught her sexting with some dudes off the internet and gave out our home phone hash so they could call her and do phone sex. There were a couple times she went out with GFS and didn't come home. I found out after we split that at least once she fucked someone else on one of those nights. I wasn't perfect either. Her messing around had screwed with me and I questioned our relationship for a while. She told me that she wouldn't care if I slept with other girls as long as I was safe, and she didn't find out. I later realized that this was her weird way of making things even for cheating on me. I never did, though I fingered a girl in college. Felt bad, but it was within the rules, and as per her wishes, I never told her. The end came years after. I had a friend who was my best friend since HS. She and I were into trying whatever and had the idea to try threesomes. We considered partners, and the only guy I would have considered would be this guy. I trusted him. We had 1 or 2 successful threesomes, but our discussions were very clearly about fun involving me and her, with him as an addition. Well, one night he stays over. Nothing happened as we were drinking, and I was tired. I went to bed. He said she'd be in shortly. I wake up hours later. She is not in bed. I go to the living room, and he is knuckle deep. Okay. I didn't get mad. Chalked it up to a misunderstanding of the rules. I made it very clear to both that this was outside the understanding and not cool. We had another threesome months later, but then once again, I caught them staying up late together so they could fool around. I lost it. Both were apologetic and promised it was a mistake, but he later told me that she convinced him I was actually okay with it. I assured him I was not. The threesomes stopped. Finally, a few more weeks later, I caught them a third time. There was no misunderstanding possible. I knew they were both taking advantage and cheating. I told her the next day that I was finally finished after 6+ years, and I haven't spoken to him since. I'm actually glad in a way. We needed an excuse to end the relationship. It had been going south a while, but I still can't find it in me to forgive him and be friends again. They both now have kids, not with each other though. I was in an open relationship, and my #1 asked if a friend of his could come crash on our couch for a week because they were in a bad place. I said okay, and we went to go pick up what ended up being this shockingly ugly chick and her cat. About 2 days in I was picking up serious vibes, so I pulled him aside and asked if this was the girl he had been seeing. We had a don't ask don't tell deal. He said yes, so I had a chat with them both, saying she could stay for a week, but they were not to have sex while I was home, not to fuck in our bed, and I would do the same, not have sex with him while she was there. They both agreed. 1 week turned into 2, that turned into a month, that turned into a year and a half. She was really mentally ill. She had borderline personality disorder, was a drug addict who was trying to be clean, and cut herself until she had to either stitch herself back up or go to the hospital. Her poor cat was so traumatized, and as soon as he got into a regular stable environment he blossomed. He was the main reason I let her stay, that, and I knew if I kicked her out, I would be the bad guy that forced them further into each other's arms. I was working nights as an escort, and I also had a regular overnight client who I'd see at least once a week, so I was gone quite a bit. She almost never left the apartment. She stayed either on the couch watching TV, or in her room sleeping for days at a time, never showering or changing her clothes. I had my very own couch troll, bought and paid for. I tried not to judge, I've been that depressed. She only left on welfare day, then she would come back the next day with no money saying she was robbed, or took all her money out of her bank account accidentally, and she had to call them. Then she would eat our food, not pay rent, and mooch cigarettes for the rest of the month. I had started using heroin again behind my BF's back to cope with all this, and soon they were doing drugs too. They both started doing crime to feed their habits, because I couldn't support 3 people and their dope habits. They both got busted, and he went to jail for a month. The day he got out, I had to leave the house for a few hours. Before I left, I told her please don't fuck him, I'm calling dibs, I haven't had sex with my boyfriend for a very long time, because you're always here. Can you agree to that? She said sure, and I went out to do whatever it was I had to do. When I got home, he was already there. I had a talk with them both, saying, I'm going to ask that you guys don't have sex until you and I have fucked, okay? It's been way too long. And I know this sounds childish, but I don't care. I'm the #1, and I'm pulling rank. No problem, they both say. For the next few days, she didn't leave the house once. I kept being like, dude, you need to go out for an hour or 2. Yeah, totally. I'll do it tomorrow, okay? I just feel really shitty today. Then tomorrow would come, and the same thing. I didn't want to go to work because I wasn't stupid, and part of me didn't believe they'd keep their end of the deal. Pretty soon they were both like, you need to go to work, we're running out of money, etc. I fight it for a few days, and finally it gets to the point where I have to work again. So I go. That night, at about 3 AM I call them to tell them I'm on my way home, and did they want anything from the store? No answer. I try again, while at the store. No answer. I grab us all some food and go home. I get in, and all the lights are on, and our bedroom door is closed. I open it, and there's my BF and the couch troll naked and sweaty on my bed, fucking. I shout, what the fuck? My bed. You fucking assholes. My BF jumps up, and is like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, don't touch me, you fucking liar. He goes to shower off the troll sauce, and couch troll gets up and goes to the kitchen. I'm towering over her like, what the fuck, bitch? I'll let you into my home. and she, digging in the fridge, says, "You know, we've been fucking since he got out. We fucked when he first got home, and you were out." I lost it. I'm wearing these knee-high boots, leggings and a short dress, and she's got her sweaty pale doughy frog-like body wrapped in a sheet. I pick up a glass beer mug and whip it at her head and start laying the boots to her medium style. I then run over to my home defense system, the equalizer, an aluminum bat leaning against the wall in the living room. I start smoking her with it. Suddenly, my naked, wet, now ex-boyfriend, is tackling me from behind. We scrap it out on the living room floor until he overpowers me. He finally lets me up, and I go for the bat again, and he takes me down again. I start screaming, "Fuck you too. You can have each other, you pieces of shit. Look at you both. She's so ugly inside and out. What the fuck, man? You totally violated our terms, you piece of shit. We are done." The next day I come home, there's a lock on the spare bedroom door and they're holed up in there because couch troll fears for her life. This sounds legit, but this is the woman who constantly talked about how tough she was, how many fights she's been in, etc. I had a last laugh a few days later when they were both doppers sick and begging me for money or drugs. That I'm not proud of. They got arrested about a week later. Our dog got kicked in while I was asleep. I got arrested too just for being in my home, and they both got put in jail. I packed up the house and adopted her abandoned cat. I took him to my aunt's to board him, and I went to detox and stabilization, which is like a month-long mini rehab program. I'm still clean, and it's almost been 2 years. Foggy the cat died of congestive heart failure last February, probably because she chain smoked with him in her shitty, tiny apartment for 8 years. We had an awesome, peaceful last year together, though, filled with snuggles, good food, warm sunbeam naps, and exploring outside. I miss that cat more than I miss my ex, who was my best friend. He and Couch Troll are still together, but not happy. After they both spent about 7 months in jail, they moved to the suicide capital of the island. Now they spend their days shooting meth and bickering. I know he feels trapped by her. If he leaves, she says she'll kill herself. And I don't doubt it, she is really fucked up. So, I was 19 and dating a guy who was 30 and a high school teacher. Which, in retrospect, was a little weird, but I've never really gotten along with people my own age, and have always behaved as someone who was years older. I had recently found out I was pregnant, and how far along I was, so it wasn't his, because we'd only been dating about 2 months, and I was 3 months along. The last guy I had dated was a guy I was head over heels for, but because of my 3-year relationship prior to that involving a great deal of abuse, I had freaked out one night after drinking, blacked out and woke up from a dead sleep crying and screaming that he was trying to kill me. Abuse does crazy shit to you. He left. 100%. Understandable. So, after finding out I was pregnant and how far along I was, I decided to let my current boyfriend know that I was going to go have a sit down with the father and discuss what was going to happen with this kid. He had 2 kids of his own and his ex had cheated on him with his sister, so he knew that I did need to have this talk. He said okay, and I spent the evening discussing what we were going to do with the father of my child. Feeling bad because I didn't want him to think I had been doing anything else, I went to my boyfriend's house early the next morning. I was emotionally exhausted and went to bed early the previous night, plus being pregnant, and snuck in. He told me where the spare was, so I could come in any time after work, thinking I could surprise him with apology sex. Instead I walk in on him and his ex-girlfriend completely nude asleep next to each other. I spun on my heel and walked out. Then I called him. He didn't answer after I got home, and told him that if he wanted to cheat on me, he should have put a sign on the door saying sick and sleeping, a reference from the first time we spent the night together, because he didn't want to have his family walk in. He showed up at my house 3 days later laughing at my voicemail. I was stoned. Then I lied and told him that it was okay because I slept with my ex too. I know it's childish, but I wanted at least a small dig at him at the time. It hurt my heart. My ex before had cheated on me mercilessly with every girl he worked with, and I felt slated to be in these relationships forever if I didn't screw them up due to crazy abuse related PTSD. Edit. Remembered correct age. First ever girlfriend, a very petite woman whom I found powerfully exotic and irresistibly sexy. Most who knew her would probably tell me I needed my head examined, but as long as the body type isn't unhealthy, I have a thing for women who are Z-axis outliers on the bell curve of human attractiveness. We were together for just over half a year when it happened. Suspected for a week or two that something was up, dropped by one morning to find her childhood best friend from 3 provinces over in bed with her, both of them naked. All she could do was pull the covers over her head. I quoted that one line from Simon and Garfunkel's Cecilia. I got up to wash my face / when I come back to bed someone's taken my place and I bounced hard. I just didn't trust my own actions beyond quoting that line, as the adrenaline alone meant I could have probably put that guy clean through a wall. Lucky I did bounce too, as I had at least 4 inches of height and 15 kilograms of muscle on the guy. Could have gotten physically ugly for him, but legally painful for me in a very bad way. Learned later on that I was nothing more than a "security blanket" for her, while her best friend got his shit together. I was only ever the sucker keeping her sheets warm. I was the blue pill beater destined to get dumped, no matter what I did. Took me another decade to trust a woman enough to marry her. I was pretty messed up for a number of years, but by then the woman I now call my wife had proven her virtues at least several times over. I still have my moments of doubt that I'm capable of loving anyone else, but then she does something stupidly cute and silly and I just melt. I still run into my ex every now and then, and she was recently stalking me online, although it seems to have stopped. And I do have to admit, while time may not heal all wounds, it can bring perspective. At this point I no longer care for her any more than any other human being, and I believe that I have successfully let go of any lingering animosity toward her. To be specific, while I would jump into a river to save her, just like I would for any other person, if she purposely threw herself in, I would probably wave from shore and wish her good luck. First, let me say that I don't usually post, and sorry for bad grammar, so buckle up for a wild ride. So I dated this girl for a few years. When I first got with her, I had a friend in high school that said she liked me. Well, I only thought of her as a friend, and I told her that. Straight up said, I don't like you. I'm happy with this girl I'm with, she makes me happy. Well, my GF doesn't want me talking to her. I understand she was upset or worried or whatever, but over the years we were dating. I talked to her some in school and I texted her a couple times, not meaning anything by it. Well, since we've been dating, I would invite some guy friends to go with us to do stuff like movies or eating or go out and just hang out, stuff like that. No big deal, we're all happy. Well, when I finally got another job, got laid off for about 4 months. With my previous job we would usually see each other all the time, almost every day, even after I got off work. Well, when I got a new job, she didn't want to meet me anymore. So I guess I should have suspected something. Well, around that time she acted a little different and soon she was texting one of our friends. She started doing it more and more and started telling him our booziness, which really did upset me. Well, this has me worried, so I tried to talk to my friend from high school. Well, I basically texted her saying that I miss talking to her to see if she will respond. So GF at the time finds it causes problems. Wanted to know why I did it, couldn't give her an answer. Well, soon after she starts talking to this guy every second of every day. When I'm with her she's talking to him, ignores me, talks to him. I tell her good night, she's still up talking to him. So by this point I know that we might break up, but I'm holding trust that nothing happens because I absolutely fucking love this girl and there is a reason I was still with her. We argued a lot. I feel like it was a bad relationship in general, but I wanted to keep going and hope things got better. Well, one day we're going to see a movie. The mutual friend's motor blows up in his car and my GF said that she would go get him and we would meet up. I absolutely hated the idea, but I trusted her. Plus I can't say no after her finding out about me trying to text my old friend. So she goes and gets him. After they meet us, she's just acting a little different and whatnot. But I say oh well. Next day she said she wants to talk. She told me she wanted a break and all this stuff. Well, of course me knows it's the end. So I just cry. She leaves. Barely talked to her for the week. I ask what she wants to do. She says break up. I say alright. Then a few days later she's dating this guy. Tore me up. Still tore up. I'm not saying I was perfect. I'm not saying I didn't deserve it. It was probably all my fault. But did it hurt? It did. It still does. Thinking about a person you absolutely adore and love with someone else. Hugging them and so on. To me it hurts bad. I actually started drinking. Just to get the pain in my chest to stop. I just wanted to be happy. It's been months, and yet I still think about it all the time. It still hurts. I always told myself that if I ever broke up with a girl, I would just get over it and move on. It's harder than it seems. The more I think about it, the more I realize why I texted my friend. I wanted to know what I was doing wrong. What was happening. Why it was. My ex said she talked to this guy because he was a friend and that she could talk to him. And I just wanted someone to talk to. The more I think about it, she said she wanted to miss me, and now I realize she never missed me. She had someone to talk to. She had someone to keep her occupied, to laugh and to hug. While months later, I just sit in my room. Could I go find someone else? Maybe. I have social anxiety, so it's kind of hard to start conversations. Do I feel like I deserve to feel like this? Yes, I do. I honestly do. Do I hope the pain goes away? I hope. But it will probably take a while. So yes. Go on and tell me how shitty and fucked up I am. I know. I probably started all this. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.